Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. As mentioned in the daily financial news, we have a special guest. It is the one, the only, Dion from Dion Talk. How you doing, sir?
Howdy, Mike. Doing great. Ready for round one. And I like it when you call me special. It was very different than when my mom did.
Yeah, probably. Folks, before I get started this, remember, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share these videos. We are trying to help 1 million people close on their first or next rental property. In order to do that, you need to share these videos. Dion and I can help about 10,000 people. It is you watching this video right now that are going to get the other 990,000. So help us out. So Dion, what I want to do first is we had a conversation last week with the three amigos where there was about a 2-minute clip where you were talking about US and Russia propaganda, maybe from the 80s. This is a time that I'm very familiar with. A lot of the viewers probably aren't. So I thought I wanted one video talking about, because I think it is really, really relevant now. Do you remember that conversation?
I do. And to clarify, in the 80s is when it shifted away from what I was talking about. In the 50s.
Okay, the 50s, sorry.
In the 50s, we had the Soviet Union and the United States. In the United States was very profitable. We were a growing nation. We still were under the gold standard. The American dream was a real thing. A one-income family could raise kids, buy a house, have a retirement. Pensions were still a thing. We hadn't moved over to the 401k. And in the Soviet Union, you literally had millions and millions and millions of people dying from lack of food. They were still trying to recover. But they were convinced, they had the people in the Soviet Union convinced that they were doing better than the people in the United States. In the 80s, we started to get more news out, more television programs, more exposure to what life in the United States was like. And all of a sudden you had the Soviet Union breaking apart into countries that said, we want some of that stuff too. But in the 50s, and the reason I brought this up last week was, I think we're going to hear this narrative in the next few months. And I actually said, mark the date. I think it was March 10th. I should have marked the date. I said, mark the date.
You did, March 10th.
I did. Okay. Wow, my memory worked.
No, February 10th. I'm sorry.
February 10th. Right. Okay. I'll see, my memory didn't work. That would have been the shocking thing. So we're going to hear the narrative like the people in the Soviet Union did. I want to say Russians, but it was the Soviet Union.
It was USSR back then.
So you have communism where money is basically free and everybody has it, housing is free, medical is free, all of these things are just free and nothing is free. Everything is taxpayer funded. Yes. Nothing is government funded, it's taxpayer funded. So you would have empty shelves in stores. You would have businesses that wouldn't produce, couldn't hire employees because you could have income from not working.
Right.
But they said, the reason there's no products on the shelves is because you have so much money that the producers can't keep up with your ability to buy it. Look at these pictures of the United States. Look at this Kmart. Look at all these things on the shelves. All of this is on the shelf in the store because the Americans are starving to death because of capitalism. The companies have all the money. So the working people don't have any money to buy this stuff. So we have empty shelves.
Wow.
We have doubled, 54% increase to fuel prices from a year ago because the economy is doing so well, because the American people have so much money. This is the first time in history where most people have more money in savings than at any point ever. And most of it's in equity in a house that's appreciated massively because we're doing quantitative easing?
QE.
Right. Okay. Those are big words that educated people know. I'm just sitting over here with this PhD, public high school diploma. That's all I've got. So what I work with. So we're going to start hearing the economy is doing so good that people can't keep up with your ability to buy the things. That's why the shelves are empty. We're just going to kind of gloss over. We can't get people to go to work because we gave them more money to sit at home. In Washington State in 2020, people were making $75,000 a year to sit at home on unemployment. The maximum unemployment was over $700. You had $600 extra unemployment for a while, then $300 extra unemployment. You had stimulus. Why work a $50,000 to $60,000 a year job, 40 to 50 hours a week, when you can sit at home and make $75,000?
And not to interrupt, but most, if I understand what happened, most of that income at 75 grand was tax free. So it was really like 120 grand. Because again, when you work, you got to pay taxes. When you got the I think they did a rule, unemployment was non-tax, at least for a little while. I mean, it's very interesting. And right now we have record savings, right? There's all this talk about 1.6 or 9 or whatever trillion dollars in like cold hard cash. And there's a downside to free money. And you're right. In the 50s, the story, I can imagine the story in the 50s in Russia. You're rich, everybody's got money, everybody's got so much money. That's why the shelves are empty. You look at the US, the people in the US can't buy. We did free money is very socialist. And we gave some experiments last year.
And I'll be the first to admit we need some social programs.
Of course.
If you have a loss of income, we have unemployment to help you, at least pay for finding the next job.
Yeah.
If you have the inability to work, there is disability income. There is subsidized housing. There is food stamps. There's there's all these programs that, to an extent, we need.
Yeah.
I think some of those should have, like QE does, tapering.
Yeah.
If you have an event, yes, 2 to 4 years, maybe it takes that long to get back on your feet. Here's this program. I have relatives in California that were on welfare for 27 years before they came out and finally said, hey, you guys shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. People wonder why I don't go to California. It's not just because of California, it's because of my family. I'm not going.
Yeah, I'm not going around. Yeah, I was just thinking about Russia in 1950s with what we tried. We basically, I don't know, I don't think anybody would call it this, but it kind of felt like we did universal basic income last year, UBI. Well, that's really what Russia did, right? They basically said, hey, everybody makes everything. You don't really have to work. You'll get something in the mail, or whatever it was back then.
Well, there was the politician. I think it was Andrew Yang. Did I get his Andrew?
Yang,
something?
I think.
Yang. I'm sorry. I don't really follow politics that much.
Mm-hmm.
But he wanted to. His platform was basic income. He was $1,000 coming in for every family. And for some people, that sounds like the solution. And I think I talked about this in our video last week. I was doing the binder strategy with a tenant, and the rent was going up 28% at their request, and still getting a better deal than the area average rents in the area. And as she was signing the documents, she said, well, I really want to thank the government for my $600 stimulus check now that my rent's going up this much. Like, she put it together. Free money means things cost more.
Yeah, I mean, another example, right? I remember the articles. Chipotle raised the minimum wage to $15. They were celebrated. And like 2 weeks later, your burrito bowl costs 8% more. Where do you think the money comes from? Right? We all pay. And now inflation is 7.5% CPI. It's really more like 12%. It is bad. And oh, by the way, we have empty shelves. I mean, the grocery, I had never seen it, right? I worked in retail, I don't know, about a decade, maybe 8 years. And it's just not something you're used to. Even when we had Christmas sales and Saturday blowouts and all these things, it wouldn't happen, right? But yeah, I went to the grocery store the other day, and there was an entire aisle where it was about 80% of the stuff was gone. It's weird.
Yeah, the transportation supply chains aren't going to be fixed anytime soon.
No.
The demand, the driver shortage was close to 300,000 before the pandemic.
Right.
Then you increase the demand, and then you have a lot of people sitting at home that don't want to work because they were making more money not working.
Yeah.
So in 2000, I'm going to try to recall data without doing the research, which I don't like to do, but in 2019, you could walk into a truck driving school and say, I have this funding source. I have the GI Bill. I have voc rehab. I have LNI. I have WIOA funds from the federal government. I have a credit card. I have cash. I have an employer who wants to pay, and start tomorrow. Like, we started a class every Monday. And we have 4 different campuses that rotated through every Monday. If you walk into a truck driving school today and you say, I've got $5,000 in cash, I want to get a CDL because I see that the average entry level wage now is about $90,000 for truck drivers.
Wow.
And they want that job. Today is February when we're making this video. How does May look for you? Like, would you like to enroll? Because that's when you can start. The demand to get into transportation is that there's a bottleneck. It's not, you can't just go, okay, I've been driving a car for 15 years. I'm gonna jump in that semi and go make money, right?
Yeah.
You have to develop skills. Safety, it takes time. So think about the things in logistics that do that too. Learning how to run the software system in a warehouse. You don't go to college and then go run a warehouse. You have to work in a warehouse for years to be able to work your way up in that. Even driving a forklift is a skill, right? There's danger involved there.
Absolutely.
So all of these things, so a lot of people for decades have been training in the medical field because of the billions of dollars advertised in, look at the nursing shortage. Well, a lot of people weren't training to be nurses. They went and got their CNA certificate.
Right.
So they're saturated with CNAs. That's why CNAs make minimum wage. Then a lot of people were, well, look at the IT field. I can go and take an 8-week coding course and make $300,000 a year with that state job like my friend did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so a lot of people got trained in that. For decades, not very many people have been thinking, I want to get into supply chain logistics. And there's all of that from dispatch, HR to IT in those companies.
Yeah.
And so the fix is still a few years out. So I think prices and empty shelves are going to continue to go the way that they have been.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
Oh, joy. Yeah,
some of us are doing everything we can to help, but
yeah,
it's still going to take time.
Now, I want to go back to this May thing. Is that because the demand is so high for students, or you don't have the teachers, or where does that hurt?
Both.
Oh, really? Wow.
So if an average truck driver an entry-level truck driver is making $90,000 a year, and you're going to only spend $5,000 to get a CDL, do you think a CDL school can pay their instructors $90,000 a year? I would love to. But then the cost, we're experiencing cost inflation. Fuel costs more, insurance costs more, repairs cost more, labor costs more. So even getting a CDL is costing more. And to me, I quantify it with, the expensive CDL schools. On the East Coast, there's some that are around 10 grand. So you can pay twice as much, or $12,000 for one semester of a college degree that isn't going to get you into a truck to make $90,000 a year. So the cost to get the CDL is still significantly less. But the perception of working in truck driving is being in a truck and gone all the time.
Yeah.
So people don't want to do it, even though there are local jobs where I never spent the night away from home. I drove for 17 years as a single parent and was home every night. Those type of jobs exist. So the demand is there. It's hard to find instructors. Instructors would rather just drive a truck, make a really good livable wage. And I completely understand that. There's just not that many people that I run into that are like me. I love to teach. Like I took a massive pay cut to go from the company I was at to teaching at the truck driving school. I was just doing it while the company went on strike. And I thought, when the strike's over, I'll go back to work for that company. But I love what we do so much, I stayed. And then I've accidentally been demoted down to the president and part owner of the company. So it worked out okay. But that wasn't the plan when I started working there.
That's amazing.
But I just need to find some people who like to teach. And the more instructors we have, we could double the volume of drivers that we're producing. But if you walk into, I don't know what California has, but in Washington, we have this thing called WorkSource, like an unemployment office. If you walk in there and say, I'm not working, I'd like to get a job, they say, great, we're going to send you to this culinary school. We're going to send you to this nursing degree program. We're going to put you in college where you can take out student loans. Not very many people say, would you like to get a CDL and be a part of the solution to put things back on the shelves? And hey, it's a 4-week course and you can make $90,000 a year. No one's saying that in those offices. So that's probably where the problem's starting.
Amazing. So the reason I wanted to have this conversation, because I think we all need to realize that the message coming from the powers that be, the media, you gotta question it sometime. Again, in the 1950s, to think that the Russian citizens were brainwashed to think that they were richer than the Americans in the 1950s is comical now looking back. But you got to realize, in the 1950s in Russia, sitting around your little TV with your family drinking vodka, you probably believed it. You probably believed you were richer because you went to the store, there was nothing there, and you had a little money. So it's amazing to think about. So Dion, how can people find you?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I do live streams every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, and I try to stay on until all the questions are answered.
You're amazing, man. Thank you very much.
Ciao.